Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Jack and I am a regular construction worker and a member of the National Guard. My life was supposed to be uneventful until the phone call came that changed everything. That day, I was busy pouring concrete on a construction site. The summer sun baked my back and sweat slid down my cheeks. Suddenly, my cell phone rang. I wiped my dusty hands and picked up the phone. "Jack, you're being sent on a peacekeeping mission to Iraq. Report for duty next Monday." It was my officer on the other end of the line, his voice cold and unquestioning. I froze in place, the shovel in my hand snapping to the floor. I knew this day would come sooner or later, but when it did, I still felt a pang of panic. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice steady. "Yes, sir. I understand." Hanging up the phone, I looked around. Everything on the site suddenly became so foreign, like the life I was about to leave behind. My thoughts drifted home to my beautiful wife, Emma. We've only been married for 3 years and are planning on having a child. Now it's all on hold. On the way home, my heart grew heavy. How do I tell Emma the news? How would she react? What will become of our future? A myriad of questions swirled around in my head, sending a wave of vertigo through me. Pushing open the door to my home, Emma's gentle smile greeted me. She was wearing that favorite blue dress of mine and was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The moment I saw her, I could barely speak. "Jack, you're back," Emma said cheerfully. "I made your favorite roast chicken. Come and try it." I forced myself to hold back my inner turmoil and smiled as I walked towards her. We embraced and kissed, and I greedily breathed in the faint scent of her perfume, as if I wanted to etch this moment in my memory forever. At dinner, I finally worked up the courage to tell Emma the news. I watched her expression carefully, afraid to see disappointment or anger. But to my surprise, Emma just listened quietly and then held my hand. "Jack, I know this is hard for you too," she said softly, tears glistening in her eyes. "But I understand your responsibility, and I'll be waiting for you to come back." I was both touched and guilty by Emma's understanding. I held her close, feeling her slightly trembling body. At that moment, I secretly vowed to come back safely to Emma no matter what. Over the next few days, I was busy making all sorts of preparations. I updated my will and arranged for an automatic transfer to pay the mortgage and utilities. Emma helped me unpack and carefully put a little note in each outfit that said, "I love you." Whenever I see these notes, a warmth rushes through my heart and a tingle at the same time. The night before we left, Emma and I cuddled up. Neither of us could sleep. We just snuggled together quietly, as if we wanted to imprint each other's body heat and scent in our minds. "Jack, promise me you'll come back safely," Emma whispered in the darkness, a catch in her voice. "I promise, Emma. I'll be back for you, for our future." I wrapped my arms around her tightly and placed a soft kiss on her forehead. Early the next morning, I put on my uniform and stood in front of the mirror. I looked so strange in the mirror, as if I was no longer the ordinary construction worker, but a soldier about to go to war. Emma straightened my collar, tears in her eyes but trying to squeeze out a smile. "I love you, Jack. I'll write you every day." "I love you too, Emma. Wait for me to come back." With one last deep look at Emma, I turned and walked out of the house. My heart felt like it was being ripped out of my chest as I got in the car heading to the airport. I knew that from this moment on, my life would never be the same again. Upon arriving in Iraq, I was quickly thrown into a busy schedule. Peacekeeping missions are not easy, and we face a variety of dangers and challenges on a daily basis. However, I always keep my mission in mind and fulfill every task to the best of my ability. Temptation is everywhere here. Some of my comrades would go to the local women for pleasure, but I always remained loyal to Emma. Whenever I'm invited to relax, I think of Emma's gentle smile and our time together. These memories are like a shield that protects me from desire and loneliness. At first, Emma's letter arrived as promised. I get one every 2 weeks, and it's always full of love and encouragement. I would read the letters over and over again, as if I could feel Emma's warmth through the words. I also wrote to Emma as often as I could, telling her about life here and expressing how much I missed her. However, as time went on, Emma's letters began to become less frequent. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, thinking it might be a problem with the postal system. But I began to feel uneasy when I realized that I was receiving fewer and fewer letters, while other comrades continued to receive regular letters from their families. I tried to convince myself that maybe Emma was just too busy. After all, she had to take care of the house all by herself. But deep inside, a little voice kept reminding me that things might not be that simple. On Christmas Day, I waited with anticipation for a letter from Emma. I fantasized that she would send a picture of us together, or a small gift filled with her scent. However, when the mailman finished distributing all the letters and packages, my hands remained empty. At that moment, I felt a wave of loneliness and panic I had never felt before. I stood in the corner of the camp and watched the other comrades cheerfully opening gifts from their families, my heart aching. I'm starting to wonder if I did something wrong. Does Emma not love me anymore? Just as I was sinking into an abyss of self-doubt, I received a letter from my parents. When I saw the familiar handwriting on the envelope, a warmth welled up in my heart. However, when I opened the letter and read the contents, my world seemed to collapse in a flash. In their letter, the parents told me that they had noticed that Emma was getting close to a colleague at her company. The guy named David, who drove a blue sports car, often showed up at our door. Once, Mom even saw Emma in her robe, saying goodbye to David at the door. My brain buzzed as if someone had hit me hard in the head. Emma, my beloved wife. How could she betray me? Didn't we agree to be together forever? Aren't we still planning on having a baby? With trembling hands, I read my parents' letter over and over again, hoping it was just a terrible misunderstanding. But every word was like a sharp blade, piercing deep into my heart. That night, I tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying bits and pieces of Emma's time with me, from the first time we met, to the day of our wedding, to the way she clung to me as I left. These fond memories are now ironic, and they hurt me. The next day, like a soulless shell, I mechanically completed my daily tasks. My comrades noticed my abnormality, but I couldn't tell them about my pain. How could I tell them that my beloved wife might be with another man and I was thousands of miles away and unable to do anything about it? I spent the next few days like the walking dead. I started to become apathetic and lost interest in everything around me. I even started volunteering for dangerous tasks, as if I were punishing myself in this way or escaping reality. However, fate didn't seem to think I had been hit hard enough. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I received even more heartbreaking news. My comrade in arms, Tom, received a letter from his wife stating that when she went to the bank to run an errand, she overheard Emma withdrawing money with a man. Tom's wife recognized Emma because our families used to get together. She said Emma looked close and offered to put her arm around the man's waist. The news came as a bolt from the blue and completely crushed me. I can't believe that not only did Emma betray me, but she may have misappropriated our joint fortune. Our joint account contained our years of savings, money that we planned to use to buy a new house and raise our children. I felt a spinning in the air and almost unsteady on my feet. Tom held me up and asked with concern how I was doing. I forced a smile and said I probably had heat stroke. But in reality, I was falling apart inside. That night, I sat alone on the dunes outside the campground, staring up at the dark night sky. There were sporadic gunshots in the distance, but I was too numb to feel fear. I began to question my life and all the choices I was making. Why did I come here? Why did I leave Emma? Would none of this have happened if I hadn't come on this damn mission? I pulled out the picture of Emma in my wallet, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. Emma in the photo is so beautiful and innocent, an angel in my heart. But now, this angel has hurt me so badly and pushed me into hell. How I wish this was all a nightmare and I could wake up and realize that Emma was still with me and we were still that happy little family. But the reality was so harsh that I had to face the horrible truth. My wife had cheated on me, and my marriage might have come to an end. Just as I was plunged into the abyss of despair, a violent explosion suddenly came from the distance. The alarm sounded, and I immediately snapped back to my senses and rushed to the camp. In that moment, I realized that no matter how bad my personal life was, I had a responsibility to fulfill, a mission to accomplish. I forced myself to push all the pain and anger to the back of my mind and focus on the crisis at hand. Perhaps it is only in these life and death moments that I can temporarily forget the hurt Emma has caused me and find a shred of meaning in living. However, fate always seems to like to play tricks on me. Just when I thought I'd hit bottom and nothing could ever hurt me more, the heavens dealt me another blow. Life is ironic. Just when I thought I had hit rock bottom, fate dealt me another blow. It was a normal morning and I was on routine patrol duty as usual. The sun was hot and the air smelled of sand and gasoline. Suddenly, a loud bang breaks the silence, and my world spins skyward in an instant. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying on a hospital bed, surrounded by the pungent smell of antiseptic water and the sound of moans rising and falling. I tried to move, but the sharp pain made me suck in a cold breath. "Don't move, Jack," one of the nurses whispered. "You're badly injured and need to rest." That's when I realized what was happening. Our convoy was hit by a roadside bomb, and I was one of the few survivors. I should feel grateful, but at the moment all I feel is a deep wave of exhaustion and despair. The days in the hospital were long and painful. In addition to the physical wounds, Emma's betrayal has left me with wounds that will not heal for a long time. I often woke up in the middle of the night dreaming of Emma, smiling broadly in the arms of another man, and there was nothing I could do about it. Finally, the doctor announced that my condition was stable and I could be transferred back home to continue my treatment. When I heard the news, I had mixed emotions that are hard to describe. On the one hand, I longed to return to familiar surroundings. On the other hand, I was afraid to face a family that might have changed beyond recognition. On the plane back home, I looked out the porthole at the sea of clouds and had a lot of thoughts. I don't know if Emma's coming to pick me up, and I'm not even sure she's still living in our house. The fear that comes with this unknown almost suffocates me. However, it wasn't Emma who was waiting at the airport, but my parents. The moment I saw them, my heart clenched violently. The look on their faces told me that there was worse news waiting for me. "Jack, my boy." Mom's voice choked as she hugged me tightly. Dad stood by, anger and heartache shining in his eyes. "Where's Emma?" I spoke with difficulty, even though I already knew the answer. Dad took a deep breath and said slowly, "Jack, there's something we need to tell you. Emma, she's pregnant." I felt my blood instantly freeze. Even though I was prepared for it, the moment I actually heard the news, I felt the sky fall. "The baby, it's not yours," Dad continued, anger and heartache in his voice. "It's that asshole David's. Emma has moved out to live with him." I froze in place, feeling all the strength drained from my body. My wife, Emma, whom I love dearly, not only betrayed me, but is pregnant with someone else's child. The blow was so heavy that I felt like I was suffocating. "Why? Why me?" I mumbled, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. I don't care about the strange looks of the people around me, because at this moment I have lost all my dignity and pride. I didn't say a word as my parents took me home. I stared out the car window at the scenery whizzing by, but took in nothing. Images of Emma and the man named David together kept repeating in my mind, each one like a sharp knife stabbing hard into my heart. When I got home, I realized that Emma had moved all her stuff. The pictures we shared, her favorite vase, even her toothbrush, all gone. This home, once filled with our laughter, is now cold as a tomb. I walked aimlessly through the house, every corner conjuring up memories of Emma and me. In the living room, we had snuggled up on that couch and watched movies. In the kitchen, Emma used to hum a little song and cook for me. In the bedroom, we had sworn an oath and made a promise to spend our lives together. Now it's all gone to hell. I dragged my tired body onto the bed, the half that Emma had left empty. I closed my eyes, but I couldn't sleep. Anger, sadness, despair, all sorts of emotions swirled through me, almost drowning me. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more blows, my good friend Mark visited. Mark was my comrade in arms and a friend for many years. His expression was serious, and I knew he wouldn't be bringing good news. "Jack, there's something I need to tell you." Mark sat on the edge of my bed and hesitated before speaking. "A couple friends and I have been helping you with your investigation into Emma. We we found some information you might need to know." I forced myself to sit up, even though every movement sent a sharp pain through me. "Say," I said, "what have I to fear when it is already so?" Mark took a deep breath and began to recount their findings. "Turns out, Emma and David's relationship started long before I left. They've been plotting to get rid of me, even planned to murder me. We found their communication logs," Mark said, anger in his voice, "and they discussed how to create an accident to get rid of you. Jack, they even considered murder for hire. I feel like my world is falling apart. Emma, my beloved wife, wants me dead? This realization is 1,000 times more drastic than any physical injury. Not only that," Mark continued, "but Emma has emptied your joint account. She also tried to sell the house, and luckily your parents found out in time and stopped it." I sat there feeling like an empty shell. I didn't know how to react. Was it to cry? Is it a rant? Or do you simply let loose and laugh at your own stupidity and naivety? "Jack," Mark patted me gently on the shoulder, "I know this is too harsh for you, but you need to pull yourself together. We have contacted a lawyer who says we have enough evidence to prosecute Emma and David. You can take back everything that belongs to you and make them pay for their behavior." I nodded woodenly, but felt no thrill of revenge. The woman I once loved is now my worst enemy. The pain from this contrast far outweighs any physical injury. For the next few days, I lived like the walking dead. I took my medication on time, did regular rehab, and mechanically cooperated with my attorney in preparing materials for the lawsuit. But I was so numb inside that I no longer expected anything or trusted anyone. Every night, I have the same nightmare. In my dream, I saw Emma and David laughing at my grave as their children played. I wanted to rush up and question them, but realized I couldn't make any noise. I always wake up in a cold sweat and then silently weep in the dark. Sometimes I think about my time in Iraq. It was full of danger and death, but at least then I had faith and hope. And now that I'm alive, it feels more painful than being dead. My parents and friends were worried about me. They took turns coming to stay with me and trying to cheer me up, but I know that no one can really help me unless I can get out of this haze. Finally, I made a decision. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take back everything that's mine, and I'm going to make Emma and David pay for what they've done. Not for revenge, but for justice, for my own dignity. I called my lawyer and told him I was ready. I'm going to sue for divorce, I'm going to get my property back, and I'm going to let the truth come out. The moment I hung up, I felt something awaken inside me. It was anger, determination, and the courage to live again. I know that there is a long road ahead, and there will be a lot of hardship and pain. But I'm no longer the poor wretch struck down by fate. I'm Jack, a battle-hardened soldier, a man who doesn't admit defeat easily. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my bruised but determined self in the mirror. I said to myself, "Come on, Jack. It's time to start over." Along with this decision, I felt an unprecedented surge of power in my body. I know that I will face whatever awaits me ahead with courage, because now I have nothing to lose. I picked up the phone and started contacting my comrades. I need their support. I need them as witnesses. I'm going to show the court. I'm going to show everyone who Emma and David really are. When I get busy, I find that my attention is no longer occupied with those painful memories. I began to focus on gathering evidence, preparing my statement, and arranging witnesses. The process was difficult, but it gave me a new purpose, a reason to live. In the process, I've also slowly come to terms with reality. Emma betrayed me. There's no changing that. But I won't let this betrayal define my life. I decided that I was going to learn from this experience and make myself stronger. The air in the courtroom was so thick it was almost suffocating. I sat at the plaintiff's table and watched Emma and David sit at the defense table with mixed feelings. My attorney stood up and began to present his case. His voice was clear and strong, and every word was like a hammer blow to Emma and David's conscience, if they had one. "Your Honor," said my attorney, "my client, Mr. Jack, is not only an honorably discharged soldier, but a mercilessly betrayed husband. While he was serving his country, his wife, Emma, and her lover, David, not only betrayed him, but attempted to murder him in a vain attempt to embezzle his fortune. I could see Emma trembling slightly in her seat and David looking disdainful. My attorney continued, "We have conclusive evidence that the defendants, Emma and David, conspired to cause an accident to murder my client. They discussed how to manipulate Jack's vehicle brakes, how to poison his food, and even considered murder for hire." The courtroom erupted in an uproar. I could see the judge's brow furrowed in obvious shock at the allegations. Next, one by one, my comrades stood up to testify. They told of my bravery on the battlefield, my loyalty to Emma, and how they discovered Emma and David's plot. Each testimony was like a sword piercing through the lies woven by Emma and David. When it came to Emma and David's defense, their attorney tried to excuse them, claiming it was just a normal marital crisis. But their defense pales in the face of hard evidence. Finally, the judge banged the gavel. His voice was serious and solemn. Based on the evidence presented and the testimony of all parties, this court rules in favor of the plaintiff Jack. Defendant Emma is required to return all unlawfully appropriated property and pay restitution accordingly. As for the defendant David, in view of the seriousness of his involvement in the crime of conspiracy to commit murder, this court will transfer the relevant evidence to the prosecutor, who will decide whether to institute criminal proceedings. The judge paused, then continued, "This court must emphasize that marriage is a sacred contract and that the act of betraying one's spouse is itself morally reprehensible. The attempted murder of a spouse is a breach of legal and moral boundaries. The defendants, Emma and David, have committed heinous acts that are a serious breach of public decency and deserve the harshest possible sanctions." I felt a wave of relief when I heard the verdict, not because of money or property, but because justice has finally been done. I looked over at Emma, who had her head down, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. David, on the other hand, had an ironic look on his face, obviously not expecting things to come to this. The moment I walked out of the courthouse doors, I felt like I had my life back. The sun was warm on my face, and the breeze gently brushed my cheeks as if welcoming me back into the world. My comrades gathered around me, their faces beaming with victory. They patted me on the shoulder and spoke words of encouragement, but my heart was unusually calm. I know that this is not the end, but a new beginning. "Jack, let's get a drink," my buddy Mark suggested, and the others followed suit. I shook my head and gave a faint smile. "Thanks, guys, but I think I need some time alone." They nodded understandingly and gave me a hug in turn. Watching their distant backs, I took a deep breath. Now I can finally really face myself. I decided to walk home. It was the first time I'd walked this far alone since my injury, and each step left me with a little pain. But more than that, a strange sense of satisfaction. My body was telling me that I was alive, that I could still feel, that I had a future. I could smell the food as I passed a small restaurant. That's when I realized that I hadn't had a good meal in a long time. I pushed the door open and walked in, ordering a steak and a beer. As I cut into the steak and watched the bright red gravy flow out, I suddenly had a strong desire to survive. I wolfed down the meal as if to let out all the depression of the past few months. After dinner, it was already dark. I continued my walking tour, my shadows stretched out in the streetlights. I passed the park Emma and I used to frequent, the movie theater where we had our first date, the restaurant where I proposed to her. These places were once filled with sweet memories, but now they are only bitter. But strangely enough, I didn't feel the pain I expected. Instead, I felt a sense of relief. These places are no longer my wounds, but a testament to my growth. Just as I was about to arrive home, I heard a scream. I looked around and saw a young woman surrounded by two men in an alley. At that moment, I didn't think twice and rushed straight over. "Stop!" I yelled, while assuming a fighting stance. The two men obviously didn't expect anyone to intervene, and after freezing for a moment, one of them pulled out a pocket knife. "Fuck off and mind your own business," he said viciously. I sneered. "You think this gadget can scare me?" I've seen things 100 times scarier than that on the battlefield. Maybe it was my tone of voice that was too confident, or maybe it was the glare in my eyes that made those two men hesitate. Just then, sirens sounded in the distance. They ran off cursing. I turned to the woman, who was looking at me with frightened and grateful eyes. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. She shook her head, then suddenly threw herself into my arms and let out a sob. I was a little embarrassed, but I gently patted her on the back. "It's okay, you're safe," I said. When she calmed down, we did a brief introduction of ourselves. "Her name is Sarah and she's a waitress at a nearby coffee shop. Can I buy you a cup of coffee?" Sarah asked, as a thank you. I wanted to refuse, but seeing her pleading eyes, I nodded. We walked into a nearby coffee shop that was still open. It was in the soft light that I noticed that Sarah was actually pretty. She has large brown eyes that go up slightly when she smiles. We talked a lot, from our respective jobs to our life experiences. I told her I was a veteran and had just gone through a difficult divorce. She also confided in me her story of being an orphan who had been working hard to save money in hopes of going to college someday. Without realizing it, it was already dawn. We smiled at each other, both a little embarrassed. "I have to go to work," Sarah said, "but will we ever see each other again?" I hesitated. I had just gone through an emotional betrayal and wasn't sure I was ready to start a new relationship. But looking into Sarah's hopeful eyes, I nodded, "Yeah, I'd love to." From that day on, my life took on a new color. Sarah is not as polished as Emma, but she has a pure and kind heart. She doesn't care about my scars or my past. She only cares about me now, in the future. I'm starting to readjust to life as a normal person. I got a job on a construction site, which didn't pay much but gave me a sense of fulfillment I hadn't felt in a long time. The daily physical labor gradually restored my body to its former strength and slowly healed my mind. Sarah often comes to the site to bring me lunch. My coworkers laughed at me for having a pretty girlfriend, and I just laughed and didn't deny it. Even though we hadn't formalized our relationship, I knew that we had some kind of special connection. Sarah came to the site one day with a look of excitement on her face. "Jack, I have great news for you." She cheered. "I've been accepted to college." I was sincerely happy for her and gave her a big hug. But then a sense of loss came over me. I know that Sarah is about to start a new life, and I may not be able to keep up with her. Seemingly sensing the change in my mood, Sarah held my hand. "Jack, I know what you're thinking, but I want you to know that I don't care about your education. I don't care about your job. What I like about you as a person is your bravery, your kindness, your strength." Her words warmed my heart. I looked into her eyes, and for the first time, I felt the urge to spend the rest of my life with someone. "Sarah," I take a deep breath. "I may not be good enough for you. I have a failed marriage. I have scars all over my body, and I may never be able to give you a life of luxury. But if you're willing, I want to face every day of the future with you. Will you be my girlfriend?" Sarah's eyes glistened with tears as she nodded vigorously. "Yes, I do." And just like that, I turned a new page in my life. I am no longer the betrayed wretch, but someone who has found love and hope again. Sarah and I work together and struggle together. I continued to work on construction sites and also started to teach myself some skills. Sarah, on the other hand, works part-time to earn tuition fees while studying. Our lives are not rich, but they are full of joy and hope. Sometimes I still dream about Emma and that painful past. But every time I wake up and see Sarah's quiet, sleeping face, I feel like it's all worth it. I realize that life won't always be smooth sailing. Sarah and I will probably face many more challenges, but I believe that if we work together, there is nothing we cannot overcome. Looking back, I no longer feel pain and anger. That experience grew me up and made me appreciate what I have now. I know that true happiness lies not in what you have, but in how you cherish the people and things in front of you. Now I am no longer young and bear the scars of war and life, but my heart is younger than ever, because I know it's never too late in life as long as there is love and hope. My story with Sarah is just beginning, and I can't wait to write our future. This time, I will use all my love and courage to cherish and guard our relationship, because I understand that happiness is not predestined, but something we need to strive for and maintain. And that in turn, is the most valuable lesson I've learned from my past hurts. Before I know it, Sarah and I have been together for 5 years. We have experienced and grown so much in these 5 years. I remember standing in the crowd on Sarah's college graduation day, watching her walk up to the stage in her bachelor's degree to receive her diploma. At that moment, my eyes were moist. Not only am I proud of Sarah, but because I see hope. That even someone like me who has experienced betrayal and trauma can have happiness again. After Sarah graduated, we all had new plans. I am no longer satisfied with being an ordinary construction worker. I want to create my own business. Sarah fully supported my decision and said, "Jack, you have leadership skills, you know the construction industry, why don't you start your own construction company?" Her words gave me great encouragement. I started to prepare for it, utilizing the contacts and experience I had gained over the years to plan my company step by step. The process wasn't easy. We went through countless sleepless nights discussing business plans, calculating risks, and looking for investment. Finally, Phoenix Construction was officially established. I chose this name because I want my company to be like a phoenix, reborn from the ashes and spreading its wings. When the company first started, it was difficult. Most of the projects we get are small and the margins are slim. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right decision. But whenever I entertained such thoughts, Sarah would always hold my hand and say firmly, "I believe in you, Jack. We've gotten through so much together. We'll get through this one too." Her trust was like a shot in the arm, giving me renewed strength. I worked twice as hard and didn't miss a beat. Slowly, word of mouth began to spread about us in the industry. More and more clients are coming to us, and our program is getting bigger and bigger. 3 years later, Phoenix Construction has become a well-known local construction company. Not only have we taken over several large commercial projects, but we have also been involved in several government infrastructure projects. I am incredibly proud to watch the company grow day by day. As my career flourished, my relationship with Sarah grew stronger. We got married. The wedding was simple but full of warmth and blessings. My comrades came, and they were all heartily happy for me to see me find happiness. Shortly after the wedding, Sarah became pregnant. When I first heard the doctor say, "Congratulations, you're going to be parents," I was speechless with excitement. I thought I would never get the chance to be a father, but now life has given me a second chance. 9 months later, our twin girls were born. As I held those two little lives in my arms, I felt a sense of happiness and responsibility that I had never felt before. I see hope and a future in their little faces. I secretly vowed to be a good father and give them the best life I could. Life isn't always smooth sailing. One day I received an unexpected phone call. "It's Emma." "Jack," her voice was hoarse. "I'm sick, and the doctor says I don't have much time left. I want to see you one last time. Okay?" I froze. At one time, Emma was the most important person in my life. Then her betrayal almost destroyed me. And now, hearing the news of her imminent passing, there is no pleasure in my heart, but a complicated sadness. I told Sarah about it. She took my hand and said, "Go ahead, Jack. Not for her, but for yourself. You need to really let go of the past." I went to the hospital. Emma lay in her hospital bed, pale and thin, a far cry from the radiant woman I remembered. A flicker of guilt and remorse flashed in her eyes when she saw me. "Jack," she said weakly, "I'm sorry. I made a big mistake. I hurt the best person in the world." I sat on the edge of her bed and whispered, "Emma, that's all in the past. I forgive you." The moment I said those words, I felt a complete release somewhere in my heart. I don't hate Emma anymore, and I don't hate myself. I finally let go of the past completely. Emma thanked me with tears in her eyes and then peacefully closed her eyes. 3 days later, she left this world forever. On the way home, I was unusually calm. I remembered the wonderful memories we had and the painful experience. But all of that is in the past. Now I have a new life, a new happiness. As for David, I heard later that he went to jail for fraud. After his release from prison, he has been living a scrappy life. Sometimes I would see him down and out on the streets, but I no longer felt angry, just grateful to have come out of the haze and embraced the sunshine again. Life moves on. My company is getting bigger and bigger. My relationship with Sarah is getting stronger and stronger, and our daughter is getting bigger and bigger every day. Looking at their innocent smiles, I often lament that if I had not experienced those sufferings, I might never have known how to cherish the happiness in front of me. On our 10th wedding anniversary, I decided to give myself a special gift. I went to a tattoo parlor and got Sarah's name and our two daughters' names tattooed on my arm. When the tattoo artist asked me why I did it, I smiled and said, "These names represent my new life, my salvation. I'm going to carve them into my body forever, just like they're carved into my heart forever." Sarah's eyes filled with tears when she saw my tattoo. She hugged me tightly and whispered in my ear, "Jack, thank you for giving me a whole family." I hugged her back tightly, my heart filled with gratitude. Yes, we gave each other a complete home, a home filled with love and hope. Looking back, I no longer regret past hurts. Those experiences shaped the person I am now and taught me to cherish, to be strong, and to love. I know that there will be challenges waiting for us in life, but I'm not afraid anymore, because I have Sarah by my side, our children, and this warm home. We'll face every day ahead together, sunshine or storm. That's my story. The story of an ordinary construction worker, rebirth from betrayal, a story of love, hope, and redemption. I'm Jack, a happy husband, loving father, and successful entrepreneur. But most importantly, I am a person who appreciates life, because I know that true happiness, which is hard-won, deserves to be preserved and cherished for a lifetime. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.